Breaking news today. We're seeing unrest on so many different campuses.
Absolute overnight anarchy.
This is going to continue to escalate, not allowing students based on their Jewish faith.
The student wearing a Star of David necklace is denied entry to the campus.
They were part of the pro-Hamas mob.
Long live the Intifada, from the river to the sea. This is the lasting shot. I want to leave you with this. This is the shot that's going to be the one for the history books of the protests here.
Live updates, and wait till you see the video footage. As buildings seized and more arrested in campus clashes, as pro-Palestinian protesters are entering campuses across the nation and are clashing with police. Columbia in New York and Portland State University closed campuses after pro-Palestinian demonstrators took over buildings, while the police managed to dislodge protesters in Northern California. And one of the most notable ones is in Columbia University. You can see here is the encampment and all of the tents of those that are protesting, and they're saying this is disrupting campuses, not allowing people to get through to classes. Some saying this is even described as rioting, and I'm going to be sharing with you the video footage so you can see it for yourself. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, before we dive in, do me a favor. If you appreciate the updates, keeping you up to speed on everything, take a quick second, hit that like button for me, subscribe to stay up to date. I'll keep you up to speed on everything, and additional resources in the description for you and your family, just in case anything were to happen. You will not be scared, but be prepared. But with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the video footage so you can see it for yourself. With protests taking place, let's go ahead and take a look.
This is breaking news today. We're seeing unrest on so many different campuses around the country. Last night, or early this morning at 12:30 in the morning at Columbia University, there were a group of individuals that stormed into one of the buildings on the campus, and they broke the windows, they shattered them with hammers, they placed wooden chairs and tables in front of the doors to barricade themselves inside. There were janitors inside. One in particular said that he was being held hostage. He couldn't get out. They finally did let those individuals out. They covered up the security cameras with tape and with black trash bags. There were people outside linking arms, surrounding the building, chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. This is exam season. These kids are, some of them, we interviewed a few this morning who said they were studying in the library for the exams, and you could hear this outside. They said inside that building, Hamilton Hall, is the admissions office, it's the dean's office, and close by is where all the freshmen live, and they could hear these chants in the middle of the night.
And look at this kid trying to get out there. The other thing is, look at the cowards with their masks on. How proud are you on a movement when you put a mask on? Were they doing that in the 60s when they're fighting for racial justice? Were they doing that when they were standing up and said burning draft cards? Were they saying, don't look at me, I don't want to get in trouble?
To your point, Ainsley, about those there being freshmen on campus. This morning at the Morningside Heights campus, they're restricting access. You can only get on the campus, and that's why our Brian Yennis is off campus, just on the other side of the gate, if you live in one of the dorms. And it's a lot of freshmen. And it's a lot of freshman Jewish students. Can you imagine if you were the parent of one of those students watching what is happening to your child at what has historically been regarded as one of the best learning institutions in the world, but now, because of all this stuff, the president has threatened to suspend the people who did not decamp yesterday at 2. We don't know exactly how many, if any, were, but Mike Lawler made a great point. You know, back in the 60s, the threat was not you're going to be suspended and there's going to be a note in your permanent record, but he said, you know, they need to know all the people who broke into that building, you're going to be expelled and you're going to be arrested. Well, how many people would go in then?
You have the right to exercise free speech. 100%. You have the right for a peaceful protest. Yep. But this is more of a riot, and they're destroying property. They're breaking and entering.
They crossed the line.
They did cross the line. These students, they say they want divestment from companies that are providing services to Israel. They don't want these colleges to give money to those companies, and they want amnesty now for the protesters. So if you're a protester, they want it off your record, off their record, so that when they apply for a job, their new employer won't see it.
So Larry Summers, obviously a Democratic Treasury Secretary under Obama and other things, former president of Harvard, says, I have to say that I've got very little sympathy for these protesters. It seems to me that at a moral minimum, they ought to recognize that they feel what they're doing is profoundly just, but they should recognize that Martin Luther King did and what Gandhi did, that accepting punishment, even severe punishment, was part of the act of civil obedience rather than trying to rally allies to insist they will not be disciplined.
Haven, Connecticut. This is a Fox News alert to the protests at Yale, where police are blocking off parts of the campus, as you can see right there. According to its school paper, 50 officers are reportedly moving in on the protesters' encampment. But the New Haven Police Department chief says no students have been arrested so far this morning. And so that has been the line so far. At Columbia, also at UNC Chapel Hill, what they've said is you got to get out of your encampments. If you don't, we're going to move in. They moved in on campus at Columbia a week or so ago. They moved in this morning in North Carolina.
Yeah, you see timidity everywhere, especially on these Ivy League campuses. It's a different story at the University of Texas, Austin, different story in the University of Georgia. There's a different story, as we just shown you, at Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Okay, on UCLA's campus, a student wearing a Star of David necklace is denied entry to the campus by masked pro-Palestinian activists. Watch this.
We're going this way. You guys have closed the entrance. We are UCLA students. I have my ID right here. I'm being blocked off, not by the security guard, but by you two. You three. Oh, look, they're making their burger while I'm going this way. Excuse me. This is what they do. Everybody, look at this. Look at this. I'm a UCLA student. I deserve to go here. We pay tuition. This is our school. And they're not letting me walk in.
Unbelievable, but it happened, and this is the man that it happened to. Eli Civis joins us now. Eli, you looked like you knew what was about to happen, and it took all your composure that you could muster not to bully your way in. Can you bring us back to that moment?
Of course, absolutely. Thank you for having me. So I take the same path to class every single day, and when I got there, it was blocked off by these students. Not a security guard, but by these students. I showed them my ID and I said, "This is the way I entered a class. Please let me in." When they refused, I quickly understood what was happening. I handed my phone to my fellow Jewish friend, and he started filming so we could document exactly what was happening.
And who were those people who were denying you access to your space?
They could have been UCLA students. They could not have been. I honestly would not be surprised if they were not UCLA students, but they were part of the pro-Hamas mob that has taken over our school.
Mm-hmm. Were you tempted just to divide them? I mean, because you're larger than they are. It looks like they're mostly women. Could you have just gotten through them, or did you decide not to do that?
We are for peace, and we will never barge through, because we know that we're better than them in that sense. And yeah, could I have? Absolutely. But I would rather have documented that so we could show the world exactly what is going on in universities in the United States.
What would happen if this happened to any other minority group? Do you think that there would have been more outrage over this incident, Eli?
Absolutely, I do. I also think if it was an encampment that is not a pro-Hamas encampment, for example, say there was a KKK encampment happening, it would have been shut down immediately. Mm-hmm. And I think this really shows what's going on here at college universities in the United States, that we are allowing these students to spread their hatred, their bigotry, and their anti-Semitism against Jewish students all around the world. Mm-hmm. And many Jewish students, feel very unsafe.
Let us bring in Allison Esposito, who's running for Congress in New York and is a retired New York police officer. Your reaction to these scenes of absolute overnight anarchy and the university administrators who have allowed this to get this far to happen?
Good morning. Well, thank you so much for having me. That's exactly what this is. This is anarchy. This is absolute unrest, and it's absolutely unacceptable. You have a group of overly emotional and underly informed individuals that are picking and choosing what laws they will abide by in the name of social protest, and it's absolutely ludicrous. You have a group of students that have now taken over a building, and there have been reports overnight of faculty members that were inside the building that were briefly even held hostage. This is going to continue to escalate and get worse and worse and worse until, God forbid, someone gets hurt. It is the time now for strong, decisive leadership. You see schools around the country where some leaders are stepping forward and stopping this anarchy from happening. In the name of social protest, these students have believed that they are not accountable for their actions. And that is actually pinpointed by the spiraling decline now in society, where criminals are not held accountable by their actions, accountable for their actions, rather. We need to take a hard stand and end this now before it gets worse.
And to that point that you just made, as a police officer, give us a lesson on law and order, of controlling mobs, of negotiating with individuals like this. How would you have put a swift end to this before scenes like this could even think about happening?
So this is beyond negotiations at this point. As a New York City police officer, I retired as an inspector of the 70th Police Precinct. We dealt with a lot of protests throughout my 25-year tenure. Social protest, abiding by the laws, is one thing, but once it crosses the line into criminal behavior, once you are stopping emergency vehicles from getting to where they need to be, once you are taking over schools, once you are not allowing students based on their Jewish faith to cross into buildings and cross over lines, you have gone into the criminal element of this, and it has to be dealt with. They have to be held accountable for their actions. The students are demanding amnesty for all the laws that they're breaking. That is absolutely unacceptable. This needs to be shut down. The leaders must be taken into custody and charged appropriately. Those who have been wielding hammers and breaking windows, destroying properties, holding people hostage. I saw the reports of a Jewish student or a Jewish individual being tased yesterday on one of the campuses. It's time for quick, decisive, strong leadership. The students must be held accountable for their actions. If there are professional agitators there, they must be held accountable for their actions. All crimes must be prosecuted. And the NYPD or the National Guard, the NYPD is some of the best in the business. They are going to go in. They will make the arrests that they need to with the professionalism that we demand. There will not be incidents escalated by the police department, but the students need to understand that if you do the crime, you're going to be held accountable. And leadership, both in the government and leadership in these colleges, needs to step forward and hold these students accountable.
You said National Guard. Do we need to see the National Guard today, basically when the sun comes up, if you can mobilize them that quickly?
We don't need the National Guard in New York City. The NYPD is ready and capable of handling protests such as this, handling mob crimes such as this. They are absolutely capable of going in there and ending this today. They did it with Occupy Wall Street. We did it with the protests, the mostly peaceful protests, aka riots of 2020. The NYPD is more than capable of handling this. They need to be allowed to do their job.
And here at GW, they're in their 6th day of protest. Yesterday was the last day of classes, but the protests certainly continue. I want to show you got about 70 tents set up here of protesters. And they're not just GW students. You've also got students from other schools like Georgetown and American, and you've got professional activists out here as well. It's peaceful right now. Sunday night, though, there were barricades along where that sidewalk is. They broke those down. There were clashes with police. There's a strong police presence. I can show you, if you just look this way, the police have blocked off this street here and all the profanity. But Steve, let me show you what goes right to the core of what really hurts the passions of the Jewish students, and that is long live the Intifada. There is only one solution: Intifada revolution. Here, from the river to the sea. These are the chants that the Jewish students say is anti-Semitism, and it is everywhere here as we walk. Here, come with me this way, Will. We'll take you over here and give you a little look into the encampment a little closer, because there's one thing I wanted to show you, Steve, and that is the signature statue here. George Washington himself has been draped in a Palestine flag, and also the keffiyeh, which is a traditional headdress, a black and white headdress that's worn by Palestinians, and that, of course, has become quite a symbol of the situation here. We can show you and get a look there right in the center of campus. This is University Yard. This is where they originally took him over, and you can see up here, this is George Washington Washington. The statue here, graffitied, covered in stickers, and this is what really hurts the Jewish students as well, to see a scene like this right now. But as we say, it's peaceful right now. Quite different, the scene, by the way, about 90 minutes south of us in Richmond at Virginia Commonwealth University. They set up an encampment and began clashing last night with the rest. They were the protesters throwing bottles at police, but we haven't seen that here, fortunately, as we sit here literally just blocks from the White House. Steve?
So, Griff, just real quick, can you just tell me what the deal is? Are they under a deadline to move out? Is any of the school administration anywhere? Do they have anything to say?
That's a great question. And actually, I just spoke with the school official about 5 minutes ago. I said, is there going to be any deadline, kind of like we saw at Columbia? They said, right now, there's no deadline to move the students, although a few days ago, when I was out here on Friday, the school did make students aware, put them on notice that some could be suspended if they don't leave. But you don't see that, and clearly the students don't have any plans to leave right now. She's covering her head because they don't talk to the media, so we don't bother them. But as we cover it, it's a peaceful situation right now. No plans to leave.
Are there people in those tents? Yes,
there's people here in all of these tents. There are people in the tents, yeah, Ainsley, and we believe there's about 70 of them here. You can see this one, a medical tent set up. They're kind of policing themselves since they set up 6 days ago, and they have the same demands we're seeing at the other campuses. They want the divestiture from any company that has anything to do with Israel, and they want amnesty as well for any students that may be facing a suspension, expulsion, or any arrest, which we haven't seen here yet.
That's right. And that street you started on, Griff, Jonathan Turley told us, because his office is right there, the cops have essentially given it over to the protesters. I know you said the protesters don't want to be on camera, but we saw some of them there. The question I would ask them, off camera or on camera, is, okay, so you're being peaceful here. What do you make of these protesters who took over a building at Columbia University, where they took it over, they barricaded themselves in, and they're not coming out until their demands are met?
Well, that's a great question. Could you just give us a thought of how your peaceful protests here remain peaceful, and your thoughts about what you're seeing at the other campuses where it's become violent? Do you have thoughts on that at all?
Can I ask what news station you're from?
I'm with Fox News Channel. We're live right now.
I can find someone for you to talk to. Just give me 1 second.
Right.
Okay.
A little groggy. Didn't have her first coffee.
Talk to us here.
Is it hard to get coffee through the mask, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Griff,
I guess so. And, this, by the way, this is the lasting shot. I want to leave you with this. This is the shot that's going to be the one for the history books of the protests here.
So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, in addition to that, over the weekend, we had heard that Russia said there should be no troops that go from NATO to Ukraine, and if there is, that they are not afraid to use nuclear force. And they said that they are the only nation on Earth that could turn the United States into a radioactive pile of ash. Now, to see the latest on that, be sure to check out this video right here next, as I covered it in detail, provided all the sources, and got you caught up on the latest. Now, as more comes out, I'll be sure to keep you up to date here on the channel. But that is the latest, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.